What is up, guys? It's Dang Bubba, and today we are taking a look at the SCUF Reflex Pro. Now, this is the first third-party Pro controller for the PS5 that we have seen yet. We got quite a bit to look at. Let's get into it.
Here we have this lovely box. S marks the spot. Pull here to open. Packaging is clean and neat, with a little extra cushion where necessary. I received the Black Reflex Pro. This was the only color option currently available in the first set of controllers to go out. The front buttons are blacked out, and it's shipped with two short concave thumbsticks. Up top, we have the standard bumpers, along with the adaptive triggers. Moving to the back, we see that performance grip that comes on the Pro and FPS version of the controller, along with the new paddle layout that we will see on all Reflex series controllers. Now, underneath where the controller sits, you'll find your standard Reflex accessory pack, as well as your user manual and safety guide. And inside that accessory pack, we received a 6-foot braided USB-C cable, along with a short and extended dome thumbstick. Now, this controller does have an internal rechargeable battery, so this does not require any external batteries.
Quick rundown of the features. The new thumbsticks that SCUF has been implementing onto their controllers. I'm a big fan. Very similar to what's on the Instinct Pro, slightly different grip pattern, but they work great. We lost the PlayStation logo, we now just have the home symbol on the home button. Microphone mute and unmute for any inline microphones. Other than that, we have our standard controller layout that you would see on a normal PlayStation 5 controller. D-pad, action buttons, create, option, touch, pad. Standard bumpers, and your adaptive triggers. No trigger stops on this controller, which means unless you're playing a game that supports the adaptive triggers, you're getting a full pull trigger with just regular haptic feedback if you have it turned on. Do the research before you buy this if you're buying it for the adaptive triggers, and make sure whatever game you're playing has the support. This will be primarily PlayStation 5 games. Bless your soul if you were able to get a PlayStation 5. I believe there's some support on some PC games, but again, that's for you guys to figure out. Can't forget about the USB-C connection right there on the front of the controller, very easily accessible. It's comparable to the USB-C on the G Pro Wireless. Actually, the G Pro Wireless didn't have USB-C. That's why I upgraded to the Super Light, because USB-C, it's right on the front. It's very easily accessible. Moving to the back, we'll start by taking a look at that Performance Hex grip, which to date is still my favorite grip on any controller out of the box. This is identical to what was on the Instinct Pro. I like it. Now I went ahead and plugged this in because my controller was dead. Here on the back, you'll notice the profile button and my 4 paddles. Now to remap these paddles, you would start by turning your controller on. And once it's on, you'll see the profile button illuminated on the back. You have the FPS preset, the Sport preset, and the Race preset. Now you can remap any of these 3 profiles, and to do that, all you do is press the profile button on the profile you want to remap and wait until it starts blinking. Once it's blinking, that means you can remap any of the 4 paddles to either L1, R1, L3, R3, or any of the D-pad and action buttons. So I'm going to do paddle 1 to the circle button, and all you do is press those at the same time. It will blink white to let you know that it was mapped correctly, and it will go back to blinking the color profile that you're on. Now you can continue mapping buttons at this point until you're done, and once you're done and you want to finalize what you just did, you press the profile button again. Solid means you're good to go. If you don't use all these paddles, you can pop some of them out. Let's show you how to do that really quick. So when it comes time to remove the paddles, this really is pretty straightforward. Keep in mind these are all labeled P1, P2, P3, P4. All you're going to do to remove these paddles is the inside paddles, when taking off the paddles, have to come off first, and you grab the paddle and pull down. Fresh out of the box, these are pretty stiff, and the paddles are made out of a type of plastic material of some sorts, so it can be a little concerning. Just make sure you're pulling down and you'll be okay. Once you do that a few times, everything does loosen up. So at this point, everything comes off nice and easy. You can grab up here, pull straight down. And again, inner side first, grab, pull straight down. What I had to do the first time to get it off was get it under there with my finger and coax it off with my thumb a little bit. Again, just making sure I'm pulling straight down. Now this also means you don't have to run all 4 paddles. Notice to put them back, that P1, P2, P3, P4. And since we took the insides off first to put this back together, we have to do the outsides first. Outsides clip in. And at this point, if you just want to run the outside paddles and have a 2-paddle controller, you could do that. You could also run just the inside paddles. You can run just one side of paddles. You could even mismatch and do one large and one small. The world is your oyster. So just to show you some of the flex on those paddles, and again, this really differs based on how far down you push and how hard you push. Nobody's pushing that hard, but it does have some flex. But that being said, as I said before, SCUF at least did acknowledge this a little bit, and you'll see these little bumpers on the back. Those bumpers actually make contact with the controller, which helps pretty much move all that force to the end of the paddle and help prevent too much of the paddle from flexing, because once that point makes contact, it can really only flex after that point, especially on these inner paddles. On these outer paddles, we do get a little bit of twist, but again, there's no way of knowing how these are going to hold up until we run this thing for a bit. So there's going to be a total of 3 tiers of Reflex controller that drop. I'll link the SCUF link below in the video description, and that'll give you a comparison chart which gives you each tier of controller. You have the standard, the Reflex Pro, or the Reflex FPS, and the differences between each one. Now this is the Reflex Pro we looked at today. This controller starts at $229.99. That is before any customization and before any shipping or tax. The controller beneath it would be the standard version, which starts at $199.99, and the only difference is you have no performance grip. Once we move up to the FPS version, that controller starts at $259.99, and again, that's before any customization, before shipping, before tax. And the difference between that controller and this one is that controller ships with instant click bumpers and instant click triggers. Now, if you're not familiar with the instant click technology, SCUF did put the instant click triggers on the Instinct Pro. You can check out that video that I did below to check out the triggers. They're phenomenal. Also, the FPS version does not ship with any type of vibration inside the controller, which means all your rumbles are taken out, and you'll probably see some weight reduction along with no feedback. This is strictly an FPS geared controller for your first-person and third-person shooters.
SCUF offers a 6-month warranty. However, for the price you pay, I'd really like to see a year, but I suppose this is better than nothing.
So, is this worth it for you? This was a tough one to answer. One size doesn't fit all, but I'm going to give it my best go. And I don't think it was worth it for me, but we'll get to that. Now, in terms of strictly PS5 controllers, if you want a 4-paddle controller with an extremely nice grip, a decently comfortable paddle layout, and I say decently comfortable because for me personally, I would have liked the center paddles to be a bit more flat, that retains the PS5 adaptive trigger technology, then I think this would be worth a go for you. They did a good job on this controller. Again, my only concerns long term are going to be with those plastic paddles on the back, but it does seem that SCUF took some precautionary measures as they did place those little bumpers underneath the paddles. If you are someone who plays primarily first and third person shooters, I would most likely pass on this controller, hold off and wait for the FPS version. The instant click triggers are phenomenal. Again, check them out on my other video that I did on the Instinct Pro. I love them. And the instant bumpers, again, tactile feedback on any shooter, in my opinion, you can't beat it. Was this controller worth it for me? Keep in mind I play on PC. I've used controllers for many different consoles, from the budget-friendly end to the pro-budget end. Gaming is a hobby of mine that I do not particularly mind spending money on. And there's nothing better than getting a new piece of tech, opening it up, going over everything, learning all the new stuff that's different from what you were using before, and then giving it a go. This controller cost me after tax and shipping with no extra customization $264.24. That is not cheap. An original DualSense controller is $69.99 at the local electronics store before tax. For me personally, after test driving the controller through a few games, my feelings were just meh. And after reading about the FPS version after I already received this, I probably would have been a lot happier getting the FPS version. It's definitely way more geared toward the type of gaming that I do, and I really think I would have enjoyed it a lot more than the Reflex Pro. Again, I'm a big fan of the instant triggers, and finding out that it's coming on that version of the controller was a bit of a bummer, along with the bumpers and everything else. So, wrapping it up in terms of everything, for pro controllers across all platforms, I think there are competitive options and better options than the Reflex Pro. This would not be my first choice for a pro controller based on what you pay and what you get. As always, guys, thanks for hanging out. I hope this video helped give you a good idea about this controller. If you did like the video, don't forget to give it a like and hit that sub button. Leave a comment down below on anything I missed or that you'd like to see in the future. I will see you on the next one. Love you all. Peace.